There is something about being stuck, like the idea of being stuck, and I mean like physically trapped, like surrounded. And I'd say my most common and most frequent occurrence of this situation is taking off, like you put on a shirt and you're like, that's too tight, and you take it off and then you're stuck in the shirt and you can't move. Oh, it just makes me lose it. I just scream and freak out a bit. There have been few other times where I've experienced this. When I was a kid, we all crammed into the bottom bunk. There was like a bunk on the floor in this trailer, 5 or 6 of us kids in the bottom bunk, and I was in the back corner. And I usually love small spaces and stuff like that. That's why I was first in there. I was like, put me in there. But then all the other kids were in there and you couldn't move. And I was like, I can't get out. And I was like, everyone get out right now. And they're like, okay. And I was like, get out right now. Like, I would not do well buried alive, for example. I wouldn't do well with that. I don't know if that's universal. All this to say, I'm feeling a little congested. I don't know if you can really hear it in my voice. I think my voice sounds a little deeper than usual. Now, I also am in desperate need of a septoplasty. Most people can and should feel like air hitting the back of their throat. That's insane. That would be like putting a bullet through my face. Comment if that's you. Comment if that's life. When I do that, I don't feel nothing. And so it's quite easy for me to get congested. It's quite easy for like one nostril to be congested, which to me feels stuck. It feels kind of like the same. And I hate it so much when my nose is plugged. It makes me want to punch a hole in my face. I'm like, it's not working. I can feel like the pressure differences is just making me lose it. I would say that is something that it makes it like very, very difficult for me to stay regulated. And then I'm thinking, because I'm not really feeling super hot, then I'm like having some coughing. And that cough, I can feel like the difference. Even when I breathe, like that's how I was like, oh, I'm gonna cough, because my breathing, I can feel the difference in pressure, and it's just so uncomfortable. More so, I think with that one, it's just like annoying. It's just so noticeable and so prevalent in what you're doing. Every single breath is different and feels different in my lungs. Being sick sucks. Being sick and some of the things involved in being sick are like some of the worst sensory experiences for me. I would say that's probably what it is sensory. I want to talk more about different kinds of being sick and why they suck. Not because you don't know, because if you've been sick, you might know. I also just released a second book. It's a workbook. It's called the Mental Alchemy Workbook. You can get a digital version on my website, or you can purchase it on Amazon. But like, tell me if I'm a nut. Because here's the other thing, okay? I looked it up because I was like, let me see if I have evidence to support my thesis, my hypothesis, if you would, the before the thesis part. God, I love Latin words like that. Oof. Do autistic behaviors increase during times of autistic person being sick? I was like, let me look. Now, I had a really difficult time finding any evidence for this, because most of the studies regarding autism and sickness are like, do autistic people get more sick? However, there was this study. There are a percentage of autistic people that when they experience a high fever or effects thereof, their autistic behaviors decreased. They had less autistic behaviors. And in that case, it was like behaviors such as they were like very like socially adept and communicative, even when like before they may not have been very vocal at all. They were more like physically comfortable, less repetitive movements, less stimming, interested in their peers, like interested in their family and in what they were saying, looking at them in the face, joking around with them more. And some adults also that were outside of the study have like reported also that when they are that kind of sick, they feel like they can like do life a little bit easier, or like they experience life a little bit easier. It's like some phenomenon. I don't know if I've experienced that. Most of my sicknesses are not feverish, I don't think. There was a thing about broccoli. Like if you eat broccoli, it like produces the same things that would be produced if you were. So anyway, people eating broccoli. Most of the physical symptoms of sicknesses that I have, I did not get sick very often at all, except around Christmas time when everything like stopped and my body just was like, okay, you're shutting down. And ever since I had COVID multiple times. My immune system, my lungs are just built different. They're like, nope, they like smell a germ and they're like, well, that sucks. How about get sick? How about get sick on that? And one of the most common things, now I don't know if this is a sickness related thing, because it feels like it is. One of my most common symptoms was having sore muscles. Like, you know, when you have like the flu, your muscles are sore, especially like your legs and your back, and you know, you're just like achy. That is one of my most common symptoms. That muscle pain, that achy pain that's especially in my legs, that is one of my least favorite being sick, or like my body just not cooperating as optimal as it should be, things that bothers me so much. It makes me just want to kick my legs. Recently, I've had to take Macy to the vet a few times because she's been going from like laying down, sleeping at the end of the day, and then getting up and walking around, pacing and like whining at me, wanting my attention. And the way she's looking at me, it's like she's scared. And the way she's walking is like she's scared. And she didn't have to go to the bathroom. Anyway, it took her twice because the first time I was really nervous that it was something gastrointestinal. And so they quickly checked and made sure it wasn't. And so I'm like, okay, good, thank God. We ended up going home. She kept doing that, and so I ended up taking her again like a week later. My vet was still closed, and paying a bunch of money to run some tests, and they all came back perfect, like they always do when that happens. I think she's in pain. You know, Macy goes really hard when it snows, and she's like, we have to play and you have to throw the snow at my face. And so we have been doing that, and she'll be 7. Maybe we've been doing that a little harder than we should. Maybe girlfriend slipped on the ice. Catching balls is tough. So anyway, she got some pain meds, and after going on pain meds and anti-inflammatory medication for a week, after that, she's been great and fine and dandy. Oh, we also like, we're not playing for that week. But anyway, so I think that was what was going on. It made me think, man, like pain looks different in everybody, doesn't it? Because with Mace, it was almost like, you know, she was scared, and I'm like, what is she afraid of? What is she like? She's being like weird. She's being weird to me. Like, she's looking at me weird. But then when I kind of figured, like, what would my dog do when she's in pain? This makes sense. She's a little dog. She's like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I can't recall many times that Macy's like felt pain and probably in this way. She's like scared. I don't know what's going on. Mom, something's happening, fix it. That's what she was coming up to me whining about, like, pay attention to me, notice me, something's happening, I don't know how to make it stop, help me make it stop, I need your help right now to make it stop. And it really made me think about children, like how children act when they're sick or have like a disability that makes them non-vocal. What do they look like when they're sick? What do kids look like when they're sick, when they don't have the words to describe that they're sick? Like, if you can't tell, if you can't hear it in their voice, you can't see stuff coming out of them. So I think it's good to think about the different ways that someone can show pain without being able to explain it to you, and also like show that they're sick or show that they need help when they can't let you know, which is honestly most children. For me, for most of my childhood, I had stomach aches, and I had stomach aches most days, and it was awful. One of my least favorite feelings. Hate a stomach ache, don't like doing stomach aches, but I had them often. There's just something about being in pains like that, in pains like a headache, or like your bones aching, your stuff aching. Oh, growing pains when I was a kid. You got a broken bone, you got a cast on it, itchy, you can't move that arm, like that constant where the pain isn't like excruciating, but it's constant. Like, I'd almost rather, I have like this desire to make it excruciating almost, or that's ends up what the desire like wants to lead to, is I would rather have it be excruciating pain than this like constant it makes me wanna, like, sometimes when I have a headache, I swear it'll feel better if I drill a hole in the side of my head. And I'm like, I swear that'll help. I swear it'll feel better if I do that. Don't do that, Paige. Obviously, I'm not gonna do that. I know better. But that's not just an intrusive thought, okay? Sometimes that's a thought that I latch onto and go, that could be correct. If you're a kid who doesn't have as much self-control, impulse control, I'm 25. I think my self-control like just kicked in. So if you're younger than me, I remember times doing, I remember times doing stuff just because I had to. Like, I remember being a kid and there's a candle going in the bathroom, and I, don't even think, put your hand in the candle. Like, put your hand in the fire, you don't think I thought that. And being like a little kid who is in pain and cannot explain or express it, like, just imagine. Now also, I'm also thinking and imagining, because I've seen this a few times, where there have been children who have been really quite difficult to teach as a teacher. And by difficult, I mean they have a really hard time focusing, keeping them like to one task. They have a really difficult time being recalled away from something that they're distracted. They have a difficult time following the rules. They have a difficult time maybe respecting other people's bodies. And it's interesting, there's been a few times where I've had students like that, and then their family finds out that, and it's been multiple cases where the family finds out that the child had hearing difficulties, wasn't hearing them. Then they got things figured out, got hearing aids, got tubes in his ears, got stuff figured out, and the child came back like a completely different child because they were no longer as uncomfortable. They were now living in the same world as everybody else and could focus on the same stuff as everybody else, and actually could engage with others, because to not be able to communicate with other people is so frustrating. Is incredibly frustrating. I babysit little kids, and there's some like 2-3-year-olds, and they try to talk to me and try to say stuff like, can I have this? And I'm like, oh, you gotta say that one more time. And they'll say it one more time, and I'm like, you gotta say that one more time, baby girl. I have no idea what you're saying. I know that also for like a lot of my childhood, a lot of like my babyhood, I was physically uncomfortable because like my stomach hurt, or like, you know, I was hungry, I was too full, or I had a full diaper. I was really physically uncomfortable a lot. And so I cried a lot. And I remember, you know, my family being like, oh, you were a colicky baby. And I'm like, I was not comfortable. Like, you know, babies cry when they need something. Sometimes you have children who are chronically dysregulated, who are chronically upset. And sometimes you don't know what's going on. You've gone through the list of things and you're like, what is going on? Why are you so upset? I just wanted to, I guess, kind of make this video to kind of be like, check if they're physically okay. Check if they're physically hurt, if they're sick, because being sick sucks. And to not be able to control or be able to express that sucks. And also if you also like don't know what's going on and how it's making it happen, like, oh, that's so frustrating. I'm a menace when I'm sick. I have a very, very, very difficult time controlling myself and regulating my emotions. If you are autistic, what are you like when you're sick? I'm really curious if there's anybody who experiences the autism fever thing. But what about anybody opposite way? Feeling sick? Not for me. Not for me. I can do pain. I cannot do freaking aching, numb, constant, like that sucks. Or something where like every breath you take is so annoying. Or every single time you like, oh, where you just constantly have to, What about you? Is that weird for an autistic person? Thank you for hanging out and watching this video and liking and subscribing and commenting and letting me know all your thoughts and feelings. I did just release a new workbook called the Mental Alchemy Workbook that is available on my website and on Amazon as a physical copy. It is a workbook that I made for myself years ago when I was trying to kind of like come to terms with my emotional reactions and the way that I am, the way that I react to things, why I was like always sad or always anxious, and then therefore that made me sad. And I did a lot of self-reflecting on all of my experiences and what they've taught me, kind of like the blueprint of myself, to see what was actually me and what I got from somebody else. Like, what did someone give me a brick that I've been carrying that I can let go? It was a lot clearer once I was able to get it out there and see and be able to go, oh, that's on my brick. So I made it into a pretty little notebook with like all the questions that I asked myself. I love a workbook. I love filling out stuff, and I love self-reflecting, thinking about me, thinking about life, thinking about stuff. I love it. How would you treat or respond to a child who came up to you and was upset? What's something about you today that younger you would be proud of? That is on Amazon if you want a physical copy, or on my website, and you can get a slightly cheaper digital copy. Thanks for hanging out. I will chat with you later. This is the end of the video song. This video is to tell you the video's done. If you're hearing this, it's because the video's done. Go watch another one. Boop boop. Have a good day. Love you so much. Bye.